Ben Edwards,
I'm Catherine Schessler.
and my proposal today is to have the Alaska State Legislature install a cap on the permanent fund dividend. This cap is going to be defined as a maximum of $1,000 per individual, where any amount above that cap gets appropriated to the general fund. Additionally, I will also be proposing that we change the mission statement for the Alaska Permanent Fund Corporation, which I will abbreviate as APFC. Together, these two actions will achieve three desirable objectives for me. One, it will provide meaningful long-term contribution to the general fund. Two, it will preserve $1,000 of dividend to supplement Alaskans. And three, it will diversify Alaskan energy and infrastructure. So allow me to expand a bit more on these three objectives. First, let's look at what kind of contribution we're talking about. If in the last 10 years, 8 dividends were over $1,000, taking only the excess above my cap, we get a total of $4,545 per individual. Multiply that by the 10-year average of paid dividends, and we get a contribution of $2.9 billion to the general fund. This cap that I'm proposing provides a meaningful, tangible supplement to our general fund year after year, even during times of depressed oil price. And that's something I really want to stress here. Since the dividend is drawn from the permanent fund earnings, its size will fluctuate in accordance with stock and bond prices, not just oil. The second objective that I wanted to highlight here is that my plan still protects the benefit Alaskans get from the dividend. I understand fully that many residents, especially in rural Alaska, face higher living costs than most. This plan preserves an entitlement of $1,000 per resident. But I'm not going to mince any words here. Under my plan, there won't be any more $2,000 dividend payouts. And while I genuinely do sympathize with the Alaskans who will have to adjust to that, I want to caution everybody from imagining the permanent fund as a welfare fund. It is not. It's a sovereign wealth fund, purely for the purpose of investing and generating returns. If we want to become a fully functional state, we need to focus our efforts on getting all Alaskans to flourish from their job incomes rather than scraping by on an annual dividend. The third objective that I want to touch on is how this plan will diversify Alaskan energy and infrastructure. Now first, why did I pick those two sectors? It's simple. They make the most money. They're the drivers of the Alaskan economy. So how will this plan diversify these sectors? Well, I am advocating that we change the mission statement of the APFC. Right now, the APFC strategy is purely to maximize returns. This means that most of the principal is invested outside of Alaska and the country. I propose that we command the APFC to change its strategy so that it invests in Alaskan energy and infrastructure first and out-of-state or foreign accounts second. This system guarantees that royalties levied out of Alaska will be invested back into Alaska. Now, according to the Alaska Industry Support Alliance, several corporations have been unable to invest in exploratory energy projects because capital is rather difficult to obtain in the state. So companies are looking for capital in this state, and it simply isn't here, or it's not enough of it from private lenders. This plan will increase capital for companies here to pursue all sorts of projects: geothermal, oil, gas, roads, rails, and mines. Think of the new APFC as kind of like a bank issuing loans to companies for projects in Alaska. We can diversify our economy and widen the corporate tax base for the general fund. Now this plan, it wouldn't change that much other than shifting the attention of the APFC towards Alaskan companies, because we already trust them to invest in outside projects. Now I'm advocating that we trust them to invest in Alaskan projects. Now, the plan that I'm proposing can achieve all of these objectives that I've outlined within 2 years. By capping the permanent fund, our state can begin realizing contributions to the general fund immediately. This requires no new government agency, and it's far easier to implement than a new tax structure or drastic spending reductions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. And I'm arguing against Ben, against capping the PFD. And Ben did recognize that Alaska is unique and there are higher costs of living. But that's not the only reason why capping the PFD isn't a good idea and shouldn't be our plan of action. And to start off, I'm always fearful whenever someone uses the word bank with the PFD, because it is not a bank. One of the reasons, the first reason is the cap is unfair. It's an unfair taxation on Alaskans. This is done without a vote from the citizens. It affects some classes more than other classes. Affects those living in rural areas who already have difficulty supplying energy and fuel for subsistence needs, as well as just heating homes in the winter. And Ben states that there will be $1,000 preserved for each person, but I don't think the wording preserved is correct, because it's not a minimum, it is a maximum, so that means that there can be less provided to Alaskans than $1,000. And it'll affect lower income Alaskans more than it would affect any other class of Alaskans. Not only is it unfair, it's also not the easiest plan of action, and it really is not as simple as Ben states it will be. He mentions that creating or restructuring the tax system would need to create a new agency. I don't believe that the creation of new agencies should be a hindrance to us if that's what we need to do in order to better our economy and encourage it to flourish in the future. I think that it also is not fair involvement-wise. A income tax would call for the involvement of more Alaskans to participate, more Alaskans to make a change in their lifestyle or action, while Ben's plan is calling for a small group of investors to change their action rather than a majority of Alaskans or a bigger group of Alaskans. And not going through with Ben's plan would prevent the financial burden from being solely on those lower income or rural Alaskan citizens. And the mission statement is also not as simple as Ben states. The Permanent Fund was created to maintain the safety of principal while also maximizing return, or maximizing total return. And the risky investments that Ben mentions can put that mission in danger. We haven't seen exploratory projects like geothermal or others be successful in Alaska, and if they were to be successful, we would not realize income or realize the return for many years to come. It wouldn't be instantaneous. So just to go back over, it is unfair because it would affect some classes of citizens more than it would affect others. It's not as easy, it's not a simple laid out plan that we can see start to finish, and it's also really risky and can actually danger the mission statement, put the mission statement of the PFD in danger. So thank you.
Thank you.